We are speaking with guitarist Josh of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. First of all, just welcome to Montreal. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So, a lot to talk about in terms of joining the band, but let me start off with Dot Hacker, your band. Formed in 2008, new album, number 3, came out in January of this year. Talk to me about putting that band together and keeping that vision and that product going, because, the Red Hot Chili Peppers with the touring schedule, and tell me about that band.
It was a band I formed with 3 other guys who are some of my closest friends in LA. And it was just sort of always my dream as a kid to have a band. Right. And it just kind of never happened for me. I started playing with a guy named Bob Forrest, through whom I met the Chili Peppers back when I was about 17 or 18. So that's really when I started playing guitar. I had just kind of been learning prior to that. So, I never put a band together. I left school early, so I was kind of
and I want to talk to you about all that stuff after too, because it's a very interesting sort of arc that you've gotten to get to here.
It was. I feel like just yesterday I was that age, and playing with Bob or just starting out. It kind of.
Well, in fact, let me take you up on this learning the guitar, because some of my favorite artists, including Ace Frehley of Kiss, learned to play guitar by themselves, and I find that when you learn by yourself, you're not following those scales, and that you do it your own way, and you find your own sounds. And I find that those guitarists are especially unique. Talk to me about how you sort of came to the instrument, because you started off with drums. So talk to me about how you came to the instrument, and just because I tried it at home, and look at me, I'm on this side of the microphone, right?
I just played a lot. I was playing drums. I was sort of sick of moving drums around, and I just felt like I needed to learn a tonal instrument to write songs. If I wanted to do that, so I just started playing along with records, and all of a sudden I was a guitar player. I don't really know when that moment came, but I started playing with that guy Bob, and we had a band together. Yeah, and that, like you said, I didn't spend time learning certain things as a young guy or a player. So,
and I find that refreshing, because you're discovering the sounds by yourself, and you go, oh, what did my finger do? Rather than, okay, do A, B, B.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I agree with you. I appreciate the way in which I learned and what I didn't learn, but then, I would have never in a million years guess that I would be on stage in a band like this,
right,
where you're sort of called upon to solo and do things that I just didn't learn how to do and didn't have much interest in doing as a kid or as a young musician. So but I haven't really put too much thought into it. I just kind of play the way I play, and that's it. Sometimes it gets me down. If I don't feel like I'm doing what what someone else's image of the guitarist of this band should be doing. But that's just all your own inner dialogue that has a tendency to be unhealthy sometimes.
So let's talk about, because you've replaced obviously numerous guitarists that have been before you in this band. Do you come in saying, listen, I'm just going to bring in my fresh approach, or do you say, hey, listen, I'm going to be your next John, I'll be a copycat? Is there any pressures from the band to be sort of the next John or the next whoever, or you just kind of come in and do what you do?
No, certainly no pressure to be the next anybody. I think the only way it would work, joining a band like this, would be if you had the ability to be yourself and bring something unique and something that was fresh and exciting to them into the band. Preferably if you are able to and have a respect for what they've done in the past and can incorporate that. Right. That's when that's why I think it's working as well as it is. And it depends who you talk to, I suppose. But I had such respect for the music and the work that they did with John and with everybody who's been in this band. But particularly with John, that's who the guitar player was when I learned of the band. When I was 10 years old or 11. When I first heard their music, he was in the band, and then obviously years later I became friends with him and with the rest of them. So I had a musical relationship with him. So I sort of understand how the band works, and getting back to playing with that guy Bob Forrest, who's been friends with the Chili Peppers since the early '80s. In that band we opened for the Chili Peppers, so I knew how every aspect of this band worked, from the touring to the record making, to the just to the interpersonal.
Right, you knew the infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why the transition and me joining was easier than some might think.
Well, let me ask you about that transition, because you have been friends with John for many years. You've made an incredible amount of records with him. I mean, higher than I can count. My math is not that good. What's it like coming in and not only replacing the guitarist of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but replacing your buddy?
I mean, the whole thing is strange, and I would have never have imagined it would happen. I would have never imagined that I would be doing this a couple years before it happened. But I think it's been. I mean, the band has been nothing but welcoming and nothing but supportive of everything I've wanted to do. And likewise, I think for them, I mean, their relationship within the band with John in the past had become whatever it had become, and I think they were excited about kind of doing this with a new person, a new energy or whatever.
Well, it freshens up the room a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one negative thing is my friendship with John hasn't really. It sort of just someone hit the pause button on it when I joined the band, but it makes sense to me, and it doesn't. I
was going to ask you about that, because when you come in and you are replacing, I mean, when you look at Tommy Thayer going into Kiss replacing Ace Frehley, it's just a guy who replaces a guy, or whatever bands. Is there a different respect going into it? I mean, do you think, okay, listen, like if John called tomorrow and said, hey, I wanted my old spot back, do you go, oh, okay, listen, I'm your friend, you can have it? I mean, does it?
Well, I don't know if...
He probably won't. He's got trick finger.
But I mean, I think that, that would be...
weird.
Well, it'd be weird, but I was going to say, I mean, that would be more something that would require a conversation with him and the other people in the band, not myself. These guys, he quit the band. He didn't want to do this anymore for good reasons. He had done it and worked really hard for a long time, and he didn't want to live his life in the way that you have to when you're in this band. Those guys did. So, it's very simple. That the band's not going to just fold because he doesn't want to do it, although... some people may have wished that was the case, but I mean, like I said, I because I kind of knew and had a great respect for how this entire machine worked, I was able to kind of just become a part of it and hopefully help it grow. I mean, there are times where I still feel like, I just hope that the new work we do and the new music we do is as exciting to some people as some of the old stuff. I don't know if that's at all possible. I mean, some of the highs that this band has achieved are just...
Plus, you're fighting memories. It's hard to fight memories.
Yeah, but I do think this band has done a good job at least trying to create new ones and hope hopefully it works. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, if you would have been talking to me at this point of the last tour, I don't know if I would have been as optimistic, because toward the end of when you've been out a while and it's been a long time since you've written new songs or been in the studio or kind of connected with your bandmates in a intimate way rather than on stage, which is a lot more just kind of blown up, and you're playing mostly the same songs every night. I mean, we do a good job of changing it up, but you could sort of lose sight of what your focus is. Yeah, and the fact that you are in a band. I mean, at a certain point, if you're a year and a half into a tour, you just sort of feel like you're a touring performer, and so, but I mean, I think now, having done basically 2 tours with them, and we're not done with this one, but we nearly are, I think it's gone well. I think people enjoy this band and enjoy watching us play, and I think the people in it are enjoying each other's company.
And sold out show after sold out show sort of testifies to that fact, right?
Yeah, and and it's still for me. I mean, playing music with these guys is a gift. It's magical to me. Even when it's not going well, and you're mad at someone for the way they looked at you or the way they played that night. Not that I'd be mad, but if you just feel like you're not
but I mean,
connected,
we all get mad after. I mean, at some point, even if you're married for a while,
Yeah.
The last album, produced by Danger Mouse, Getaway, not produced by Rick Rubin. What was that like? And maybe you can speak from the perspective of you and the band, because the band, of course, had done albums going back 25 years with Rick. And then they have you as that new energy. What was that like for you, not having Rick Rubin there and having Danger in there? And what did he bring to the mix?
Well, for me, I mean, that was the difference between myself and those guys. It wasn't that weird for me to not have Rick there. Those guys had made so many albums with him, and I felt, having done one, that I wasn't interested in doing another album where I felt like I had the least amount of time in, as a part of the group, the core group making the record. So, we changed it to a person who we basically all had the same amount of time working together. I mean, I'd worked with Brian before, and I'm friends with him, but, nothing like this. So, and he has a different approach to Rick, similar in certain ways, but he gets in there and he kind of chops drums up, and he helps a song come. We sort of created songs with him from the get-go, which is something the band wouldn't do with Rick or hadn't done before. And all these things, I mean, they have their positive sides and their negative sides.
Were you involved in that conversation? Because at some point they must sit down and say, okay, we're going to do a new album, and who are we going to have to produce? And the first thing...
I was very involved. I mean, that's the great thing about this band. I mean, I'm fully in the band, and I'm a part of every conversation, and, I think that, like I said earlier, that's what they want. They don't want anyone who's just going to go along with the way they want it to be. Right. So... yeah, I mean, it was an open discussion the whole time. Everyone wasn't happy about it the entire time.
So it wasn't like the three guys saying, okay, you go sit over there, we're going to talk about who's going to produce this, and we'll get back to you.
No, I mean, the band has had such success with Rick for so long that I think it was a scary...
But at sometimes, just as from a fan perspective, I think if you have the same producer year after year, or the band producing themselves, you go... you need a new set of ears in there. You just need somebody to say, "Hey, wait a minute,"
Yeah, which hopefully we did, and I think, So, like I said, I mean, I'm the one that known Brian for the longest and friends with him, and I probably had just as hard a time with him producing than I did with Rick. I learned more and more about myself that I don't like working with producers. There's just things about. But then again, maybe it's not producers. Maybe it's at the end of the day, the reality is, just as I said, that I'm an equal member and they're focused, my input is equally welcome on every level. There is a degree of sort of like, am I going to fight for this idea? I mean, there's a producer who's kind of, I guess, in charge. He's producing. Then there's Flea and Anthony, who have been in this band since I was 4 years old.
Right.
And then Chad, has been in there for 25 years. Am I going to fight for this idea? Like, where's my place in this? It's my own, kind of inner dialogue about certain things. Right. And I guess when it comes to certain decisions when you're making a record, I mean, I just kind of feel that I should step back, Right. I mean, I can't, but that's what I said. If we're working with a producer and this person is new to the environment and not in the band, I start going, wait, but why am I subjugating my opinion to this person, and what the producer? But what does that mean?
Because you have your own musical vision. Now, because I know we're running out of time, so let me just cover a couple of other topics here.
And we can go over two. I don't mind.
Thank you. Bicycle Thief. You toured and opened for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So. Talk to me about that dynamic when you first got that tour. You were first, you're opening for this massive band in the early 2000s. What was that like? And then now, of course, now you're in the band. Is there sort of a surreal moment where you just go, what the hell happened here?
Yeah, I mean, I have that every day. I mean, I have that so often. What the hell happened here? I can't, like I said, I don't know when it happened. I feel like just the other day I was learning how to play, and I was opening for them. I mean, that was so exciting at the time. I mean, just being in a van and touring and not being at home, working at a record store or whatever I was doing. I mean, it's kind of
It's surreal. I mean, that's really the word for it. And I'm also interested in some of the artists you've worked with, because you've done a tour with Beck, PJ Harvey, Gnarls Barkley. Some might qualify them as being eccentric or on the fringe, and Red Hot Chili, they sort of became the mainstream, but they weren't when they started. Talk to me about those different bands, especially Beck. I mean, he's a very interesting character. Well, maybe character is not the right word. Very interesting guy. What was that like working with Beck and then, of course, PJ Harvey? Because they're just very unique in what they do.
Yeah, I mean, they're two great songwriters, and they were. It was an honor to play with both of them, and I again couldn't believe that I was doing it. I was 22, 23, 24, and just sort of learning in a lot of ways how to play guitar. I mean, I still thought of myself as a drummer in a lot of ways. But yeah, I just I think. Playing on both of those tours were slightly different in the sense that with Beck, the band was a little more contained. He was in the front, and we were there supporting him. And you would think with Polly the same thing, but that particular tour, she wanted it to be more like an actual band where everyone's sort of
running around and has a spotlight, right?
Yeah, so that was I just kind of did what I would naturally do if it was my band, and learned a lot and learned. It was a wonderful time. Both experiences were wonderful. The Beck tour, now that time's gone by, was really all said and done about 2.5 months. Right. So, but I mean, some of my closest friends. "I'm a Loser Baby" is one of those songs that you just sort of hear playing in your head for 20 years, right? Our current front of house sound guy works with Beck a lot, and so I've been talking about Beck a lot with him, and I became friends with a guy called Greg Kirsten, who's become one of the biggest producers in the world. On that tour, one of my closest friends, Steve McDonald, I met on that tour. So I mean, that tour, actually I had dinner with the guy who mixed Front of House on that tour the other day. So I mean, those kind of things like friendships and relationships that stay with you. I mean, that tour in particular. Yeah. And my guitar tech Ian, I met on the PJ Harvey tour. I mean, we did that tour together. So I mean, pick up little pieces all over the place. Not to cut you off, but I'm trying to get our time and respect everything. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You're inducted, and you look at some of the people that aren't: Rob Halford of Judas Priest, Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden, the Motley Crue guys, all these bands that have had these. And you're in there, and I firmly believe that you should be there. Anybody who's helped the band move forward, whether it's Kiss or whatever, they should all move forward. What was that like for you, though? Because you look around and you go, guys from Styx aren't in here, guys from Moody Blues aren't here, and look, here I am. The Cure didn't make it in the year I did. Right, so... But I choose to I don't even think of it, Yeah, because there's no rational justification for... certain people not being in and me being in, or you'll grow a tail and chase it all your life before you come up with any sensible answers about any of that stuff. Yeah, and by the way, I certainly didn't mean to put down the fact that you're in there. I think you should be. You look at the guys in Pearl. I mean, the Pearl Jam one is the one that's sort of bizarre because you've had all these guys that have helped out. Yeah. And they're not there. Yeah, of course. I mean, Jack Irons. Well, yeah. I mean that's a whole long conversation. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, there were rules that may have been invented to deal with the Chili Peppers induction that didn't now apply a couple of years later with Pearl Jam. But if they had applied, would have seen Jack enter twice, which I thought was fun. I mean, really, the Hall of Fame is it's a museum basically. I mean, I don't know what a Hall of Fame means. The reason I'm in there is a technicality. It's a loophole. It's a weird thing. I mean, it has no. And it's not to be disparaging. It's just. Yeah, but it really means nothing. It's like if I was to go around believing that I did anything worthy of being in a Hall of Fame, then I really. You don't have a Hall of Fame T-shirt at home with your name on? No, my parents have a little trophy on their mantelpiece, but it's more of a conversational piece than anything. I mean, I'm grateful. I mean, like my standard answer about it is the fact that I'm just every day I'm honored to be Flea, Anthony, and Chad's friend. Yeah. I mean, that's the greatest. That's what allows me to be in this band. That's what allows this band to work. And timing is what it is, and their career, and my age being, making me the youngest person in their way. All those things are secondary. The real honor and the real accomplishment is being their friend.
And being on that stage tonight and just playing for fans.
Yeah, well, but it all comes through being, in the right place in the right time to meet them and be a good enough person, if I may, say something kind about myself, which is rare, just to be someone that they consider a friend. I mean, that's all that I could ever, be proud of. I mean, the Hall of Fame is nothing compared to the fact that, Flea and I will text about basketball, or, Chad let me stay at his house, in New York, like these things, the fact that I'm, friends with them is really the true honor.
And I don't want to bring the interview on a down point, but we all know Chris Cornell passed away, and you've gone on stage and paid tribute to him, covering his song. Why was that important for you to do that, and what did he mean to you? Because he certainly meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get everybody sad here, but I mean, it's
yeah, he was
unique and special.
Yeah, and just really, I sat on the floor with the lights out, listening to that song Seasons that I played, 25 times in a row when I was 12 years old or whatever it was, whenever it came out. He was a big part of my young life. Just that band, his songwriting. I always felt that there was a sophistication to his songwriting that was, unlike lots of people that you saw. And his death just seems so surprising to everybody. I mean, I can't comment about it, obviously, because I didn't know the guy, and I certainly don't.
But that's the thing about the power of music. We feel that we know these people. I mean, you could look back, and in my case, I'm a little older, and you look back and you think, Rob Halford is my best friend, but no, he's not. But you just get that sense, right, through the music. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, exactly to that point, I grew up listening to these people who I now am considered peers of, somewhat, because I play in this band, and but there are certain people whose path I never crossed, and he's one of them. I rode in an elevator with him once, but I just I feel like if I think about his death too much, I get so sad, because I don't
want to think about it. We should celebrate his life, because that's what you're doing by playing his song. And it keeps the spirit alive.
I hope beyond hope that his life gave him more enjoyment than not. I guess it's hard to measure, but
well, he certainly left a legacy for the rest of us to keep enjoying and keep giving us. Listen, we're way over time, so thank you for everything. It was a great pleasure, and
you can carry on if you have a couple more questions. I don't mind. They just like to.
Well, I do want to just get quickly back to Dot Hacker, because we didn't really we cut you off at the pass there, but what is sort of the future of Dot Hacker? Is that something that you're going to continue doing on the side and try to establish as your own, and I know the word's horrible, brand? Or is it something that you just I want to have a few minutes, I'll just toss something together?
It was intended to be my main focus for a while, because I spent sort of my 20s doing what you mentioned earlier, Beck and PJ Harvey, and then Gnarls Barkley, which were all, I played with this great band Sparks too. I sort of was
and
always lucky.
Thief,
I was always lucky in the sense that I never did anything that I didn't like. I never had to take a job, quote unquote, and tour with someone that I didn't respect and admire and look up to. But one thing after another, one thing led to another, and before you knew it, 10 years disappeared. So I found myself sort of on tour with Gnarls Barkley maybe in the latter part of the last decade, and I sort of thought, oh my God, I remember just yesterday I had always dreamed of putting a band together with friends, and it never happened. And I think I allowed myself to get a little unhealthy and unhappy and destructive at times because of that reality, because I was now 30-something, early 30s, and I had never done what I had set out to do as a teenager or whatever, and I was just sort of looking at my life and going, oops, how, if you let it disappear like it just did, then you'll be dead soon. And but through Gnarls Barkley, and I met Clint Walsh, and then through him I met Eric, the drummer, and Jonathan Hischke I'd met a couple years earlier, and I just thought that this foursome seemed like a great band, and it just happened really fast, but we were just sort of getting to know each other musically and kind of slowly becoming a thing, and it was really exciting. But reality is what it is, and people's time is a little limited when you get older. I guess you can't devote as much time, and people were always sort of dipping in and out, going on tour and doing this and that, and then but we kept it together and we were working, and then I got called to join this band, which is something that
a little bit of guilt though. You go, oh, I'm gonna leave my buddies behind, or you go like, hey, dude, that's the game, right?
I didn't so much feel guilty. It was more just
like it's moving forward, and you're like, oh, now I got to put it on pause.
But it already had been put on pause already. But I mean, mainly, it's a double-edged sword, because this band is a blessing and an amazing experience, and I love every minute of it. And it's also helped Dot Hacker exist, because I don't know if those guys would be into getting in a van and going and pounding the pavement as you are when you're a teenager. But, we have somehow been able to make as many records as we would if we were, we're on a normal trajectory, a normal schedule. Right. We just don't tour. That's the problem. Right. So, we have 3 records now, and
of course, being in this band gives you interest from fans that you might not have had.
Yeah,
so
there's a couple people that know it. Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny band. I mean, but like I said earlier, they're 3 of my dearest friends. So anytime there's time in the past, that's how I've spent it. The minute I'm off with them, the minute I have a second, I try and get those guys together. And I'm sure that'll happen again. We have no plans at the moment, but this tour is almost done, and
time to rev up that engine. Yeah. But thank you for your time. We're way over, I'm sure other folks.
You might have to actually edit now.
Yeah, the editing's fine. Yeah, I didn't even get to the Fender Stratocaster. That was your instrument of choice. But,